Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt strangely unsettled? You couldn't quite explain why. There were no raised voices, no name-calling, no drama, but something in your gut whispered, something isn't right. And that whisper might be your first encounter with emotional manipulation, because here's the truth, manipulation isn't always loud, it's not always cruel on the surface. In fact, the most dangerous kind is quiet, refined, wrapped in kindness, concern, or even love. It can sound like guilt, coded in a soft voice. It can look like affection, freely given, then pulled away the moment you speak your truth. Sometimes it shows up as a question that makes you doubt what you just said, or a silence so heavy, it makes you want to apologize, even when you did nothing wrong, and before you know it, you're not just doubting them, you're doubting yourself. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Maybe I misremembered. Maybe I am the problem. That's the terrifying beauty of emotional manipulation. It doesn't just twist facts, it twists you, from the inside out. But this video isn't here to make you feel ashamed, it's here to bring light into the fog. Today, we're going to do something powerful. We're going to slow down, take a breath, and untangle what's really been happening under the surface. We'll uncover the warning signs, we'll name the subtle tactics that wear you down, and we'll explore how this quiet erosion affects your identity, your ability to trust your own mind, and your emotional freedom. Because here's what most people don't realize, emotional manipulation doesn't begin with control, it begins with confusion, and then, it grows, until the ground beneath you feels unstable, like you're not even sure what's real anymore. But listen closely. This can happen to anyone, to intelligent people, to emotionally aware people, to strong, compassionate people, especially those who were taught to always see the good. And if that's you, this isn't your fault. You don't need to carry shame, you need tools, you need truth, you need a space to come home, to yourself. So let this be that space. If any part of this resonates, breathe deep, you're not alone, and if someone you love needs to hear this, share it with them, because once you can name it, you can begin to face it, and once you face it, you begin to take your power back. So let's begin, together. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt this strange weight in your chest? No yelling, no insults, no obvious conflict, and yet, something inside you whispered, that didn't feel right. It's hard to explain. You try to brush it off, you tell yourself you're just overthinking, but your gut won't let it go. That discomfort, it's not paranoia, it's your nervous system trying to protect you, and often, it's the first quiet signal of emotional manipulation. See, manipulation doesn't always come with screaming or slamming doors. Sometimes, it walks in quietly, wearing a smile, disguised as care, logic, even love. Let's break it down. One of the first signs, you find yourself constantly apologizing, even when you're not sure what you did wrong. You tiptoe, you shrink, you try not to say the wrong thing. Because somewhere along the way, you were trained to keep the peace, even if it meant losing yourself. Another sign, you start questioning your own memory. Maybe they said something cruel, but now they deny it ever happened, and you wonder, am I exaggerating? Am I just too sensitive? This isn't forgetfulness, this is gaslighting. Phrases like, that never happened. You're imagining things. You're always twisting what I say. They sound casual, but over time, they rewrite your reality, and then you pull away, you stop sharing, you silence yourself, because someone made you believe that no one would understand, or worse, they'd take the manipulator's side. All the while, you overthink everything, you question every emotion, every decision feels heavy. Did I overreact? Did I upset them again? Am I the problem? If any of this feels familiar, you're not crazy, you're not broken, and you're not alone. These are the early red flags, disguised as your own guilt, your own confusion, your own silence. But the moment you begin to name what's happening, you begin to reclaim something powerful, your clarity, your voice, your identity, and that is where healing begins, not in fixing the relationship, but in realizing, I'm allowed to trust my gut. I don't have to apologize for my truth. This isn't just a conversation about manipulation, this is about coming home to yourself. So if you're ready, let's go deeper. Here's something we don't talk about enough: manipulators don't just go after your weaknesses, they go after your humanity. They don't need you to be broken, they just need you to be human, with a heart that longs for connection, that craves peace, that hopes for love. And the truth is, that's not a flaw, that's how we're wired, from the time we're children. Our brains are shaped by the need to belong, to be held, to be seen, to feel safe in someone's care, and that need, it doesn't vanish with age. As adults, we still seek acceptance. We still want to know that we matter, that we're worth being loved, for who we are, and that beautiful instinct, that deep desire to be close to someone, is exactly what a manipulator learns to exploit. They don't overpower you, they don't need to raise their voice. They just make you believe that losing them would be more painful than losing yourself. So if you're someone who avoids conflict, someone who values peace over confrontation, you might be even more vulnerable. Maybe you learned early on that silence keeps the storm away, that not rocking the boat keeps the family calm, that walking on eggshells feels safer than speaking your truth. But with a manipulator, your silence becomes an open invitation, a green light for them to twist boundaries, shift blame, and rewrite reality. They count on your discomfort with conflict, they rely on your kindness, and if you already carry even a whisper of self-doubt. If you've ever wondered whether your feelings are too much, or whether you're not enough, those cracks, that's where the manipulation seeps in. You start thinking, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I did cause this. If I just try harder, maybe it'll go back to how it used to be. But the most powerful trap of all isn't fear, it's hope. Hope that they'll change, hope that the person you first met, the warm, loving, attentive version of them, will come back. You hold on to that hope, not because you're naive, but because you're loyal. Because you remember the good moments, and you want to believe they were real. But manipulators use that hope like a leash. They give you just enough to keep you near, but never enough to let you feel whole. So if you've ever asked yourself, why can't I leave? It's not because you're blind, it's not because you're weak, and it's definitely not because you're broken. It's because your most beautiful traits, your empathy, your patience, your loyalty, your hope, have been used against you. But here's the good news. Once you see it for what it is, the illusion starts to crack. You begin to choose truth over comfort, clarity over chaos. And slowly, you begin choosing yourself over the illusion of connection. And that's where the shift begins. In the next part of this video, we'll look deeper into how this emotional erosion affects your identity, and how to start rebuilding the version of yourself that never needed to be controlled, to be loved. Stick with me. Because you're not just waking up to manipulation, you're waking up to you. There's a quiet kind of battle that no one sees, not the kind fought with raised voices or harsh words, but the kind that happens deep inside your own mind. It sounds like this: something feels off. But maybe I'm just being too sensitive. Maybe I'm the problem. If you've ever had that inner tug-of-war between your gut and your guilt, You're not alone. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, when two conflicting truths live inside you at the same time, and they pull you in opposite directions. You might think, this person is hurting me. Then immediately follow it with, but they say they love me. They say I'm everything to them. Or maybe, I need to leave. But then, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm just overreacting? That war between logic and emotion, between intuition and self-doubt, it wears you down, until you start silencing yourself, just to survive. You stop trusting your gut, you start editing your thoughts, before they even surface, and slowly, you begin to deny your own reality. That is self-denial, the kind that whispers, keep the peace. Don't make it worse. Maybe you're the problem. And manipulators, they love this space, they thrive in your silence, because when you're busy questioning yourself, you're no longer questioning them. Confusion becomes their sharpest weapon. It keeps you stuck, it makes you think, the problem is you. So you try harder, shrink smaller, push your needs deeper down, and the cost, it's heavy. You start to feel numb, disconnected, like a stranger in your own life. But here's what no one tells you, that confusion you feel, that tension, it's not weakness, it's a sign that your intuition is still alive, still whispering, even beneath the noise. That discomfort, it's your inner truth, fighting to be heard. So instead of silencing it, what if you leaned in, even just a little, even if you're scared, even if it doesn't all make sense yet, because every time you trust that voice, you take one step toward clarity, toward freedom, toward yourself, and that is where your power begins. There's a moment, sometimes quiet, sometimes crushing, when you catch your own reflection and realize you don't quite recognize who you've become, not because something dramatic happened overnight, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped being you. That's what emotional manipulation does. It doesn't just change how you feel in a relationship, it changes how you see yourself. At first, it's subtle. You bite your tongue, a little more than usual. You second-guess your opinions, not because they're wrong, but because someone made you feel like they don't matter. You tell yourself, it's not worth the argument. Maybe I am overthinking it. If I stay quiet, things will stay peaceful. But over time, that silence becomes your default, that self-editing becomes your new voice, and without even realizing it, you begin molding yourself into who they need you to be, instead of who you really are. This is how identity begins to blur. Your boundaries, once clear, now feel fuzzy. You don't know where you end, and they begin. You start to live for their approval, adjusting your tone, your needs, your truth, just to keep the connection alive. And the worst part, you start to feel like that borrowed identity is who you really are. You stop asking, is this right for me? And start asking, will they be okay with this? That's the silent cost of manipulation. It doesn't just bend your behavior, it reshapes your self-perception, and eventually, you find yourself whispering questions like, why do I feel so distant from myself? When did I stop trusting my own voice? Why does it feel like I'm disappearing? But here's the truth, you haven't disappeared, you've just been buried, under layers of fear, of survival, of compromise, and you can come back. The way home doesn't start by fixing the relationship, it starts by reconnecting with yourself, by asking, what do I believe? What do I want? What have I been too afraid to say? Reclaiming your identity is not about becoming who you were before the manipulation, it's about becoming someone stronger, someone who knows what it feels like to lose their voice, and chooses to speak anyway. It's in the quiet act of saying no. In the bold choice to stop apologizing for existing. In the brave moment when you remember, you never had to earn your worth to begin with, because you just as you are, have always been enough. Have you ever felt like you're walking in circles, mentally, emotionally, trying to make sense of something that just doesn't add up? You go over the same story 100 times in your head, trying to explain their behavior, trying to explain your reaction, trying to make peace with something that keeps stealing your peace. That's not just confusion, that is a mental trap, and it's one of the most powerful tools of emotional manipulation. Let's break it down. Trap 1, cognitive dissonance. It's the mental tug-of-war between what you feel and what you're told. They say they love you, but their actions, they sting. They apologize just enough to make you question whether it was ever that bad, so you tell yourself, they didn't mean it. Maybe they're just tired. It's not always like this. You rationalize, to relieve the inner tension, and with every excuse, the line between love and harm begins to blur. Trap 2, over-explaining. This one's sneaky. You start defending them, not just to others, but to yourself. They had a rough childhood. They're under pressure. They're doing the best they can. Maybe they are, but here's the question no one asks: who's explaining you? Trap 3, self-doubt. This one cuts deep. You start to absorb the words they use on you. Too sensitive, dramatic, always overreacting. Soon, their voice becomes your own. You're not just questioning them, you're questioning yourself, your memory, your emotions, your sanity. Maybe it is me. Trap 4, hope as a hook. This is the most dangerous one, because it doesn't feel like a trap. You remember how warm they were at first, the kindness, the closeness, and you think, if I try harder, if I just wait, they'll come back to that version again. But the truth is, hope without change isn't healing, it's bait, and the more you chase the potential, the further you drift from reality. Trap 5, confusion as complexity. You begin thinking, maybe I just don't understand them. Maybe I'm the one who's missing something. But that fog in your mind, it's not because you're broken, it's because you're being manipulated. Vague answers, mixed signals, circular logic, all designed to keep you chasing clarity that never comes, the shift. So if you're stuck in this loop, let me tell you something: you don't have to explain away mistreatment, you don't have to carry the burden of someone else's healing, and you never have to earn the right to be treated with respect. The moment you start to question the trap, you're already halfway out of it. And when clarity returns, your power follows, one grounded thought at a time. There's a moment, and it rarely announces itself with clarity. No shouting, no proof, just a quiet, sinking feeling in your chest. You walk away from yet another draining conversation, and something deep inside whispers, something's not right. You don't have the words, you can't explain it, but your body knows. Your shoulders tense, your heart races, your thoughts spiral. That's not just anxiety, it's your nervous system waving a red flag. It's the first flicker of clarity, soft, uncertain, but real, and at first, you ignore it. You tell yourself, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm just being sensitive. But then you start to notice the pattern. You're apologizing, even when you don't know what for. You feel guilty for needing space, you feel selfish for wanting peace, and your inner voice, the one that once felt so clear, now feels silenced. That's not peace, that's self-erasure. And it doesn't happen in one blow, it happens slowly, one small compromise at a time, one swallowed truth after another, until one day, someone gently says, "That's not okay." Or a therapist looks you in the eye, "You're not the problem." Or maybe it's just you, catching your own reflection, and whispering, "When did I start disappearing?" Then your body speaks louder, the tight chest, the quiet dread, the emotional shutdown that follows every "I'm fine." You realize, you've been living in a constant state of tension, and calling it love, but realization, it's not a finish line, it's a beginning, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you hear your voice again, even if it trembles, you can start to trust it, and that's where the shift begins. Not all at once, but slowly, powerfully, you begin your return to your voice, to your clarity, to you. There's a kind of manipulation that wears a soft smile, it sounds like concern, it looks like care. And that's what makes it so dangerous. You see, not every kind word is rooted in kindness, not every "I'm doing this for you" is really about you. Sometimes, what we think is love, what we hope is love, is just control, disguised in compassion, and that difference, between real care and quiet control, it's subtle, it's slow, but over time, it changes everything. Let's talk about that. Genuine care honors your boundaries, even when it's inconvenient. It listens when you say, "I need space." And it doesn't punish you for needing room to breathe. Real love doesn't shrink you, it doesn't silence you, it lets you speak, even when your voice shakes. It lets you grow, even if that growth means distance. But manipulation, it needs something back, not connection, control, not understanding, obedience, not love, loyalty. At the cost of your truth, it wraps itself in sweet language, but underneath, you feel it, you're walking on eggshells, you're apologizing for simply existing. Let me ask you something. Have you ever shared your honest feelings with someone, and walked away, feeling ashamed, for even having those feelings? That's not love, that's emotional conditioning. In healthy love, your voice matters, even when it disagrees. Your needs matter, even when they're messy. And your growth, it's celebrated, not punished. But when manipulation is present, independence becomes a threat. The more you find your voice, the more they try to lower the volume. The more you shine, the more they want you to dim the light, just to keep the peace. So if you've ever felt loved only when you comply, or safe only when you stay quiet, you're not crazy, you're not too sensitive, you're waking up, and that awakening, it's the most powerful thing you'll ever experience, because real care, real love, it gives you space to breathe. It doesn't need to fix you, it doesn't shame your flaws, it doesn't twist your feelings to gain control, it simply stays, even when things get hard, even when you speak your truth. And that kind of love, it doesn't just feel good, it sets you free. Healing doesn't mean pretending nothing happened, it means learning how to protect your heart, without hardening it. So where do you begin, after emotional manipulation has worn you down, when your truth has been twisted, your boundaries blurred, and your voice silenced? You start by anchoring yourself in what's real, not what they told you, not what they wanted you to believe, but what you know to be true, your values, your compass, the quiet truths that survive the noise. Ask yourself, what do I stand for, even when no one agrees? What kind of energy do I want in my life? That's not just reflection, that's reclamation. Then, you begin the slow work of rebuilding your emotional boundaries, not to shut people out, but to protect what's sacred inside you. You don't owe your vulnerability to those who've used it against you. You don't have to explain your pain to people who only minimize it. Emotional safety is not a luxury, it's a requirement for real connection. And here's something most people forget: start questioning emotional logic. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's healthy. Ask yourself, am I guilty because I've done something wrong, or because I was trained to feel guilt when I said no? You didn't fail, you were programmed, and now, you get to unlearn it. Next, look for the patterns. Manipulation moves in cycles: charm, guilt, silence, punishment, Then, back to charm. When you see the loop, you can step outside it, ground yourself in reality, journal it, talk to someone safe, let someone say to you, "You're not crazy." That did happen. And listen to your body, tight chest, knots in your stomach, constant fatigue. That's not just stress, that's your nervous system waving a red flag. Don't ignore it, don't silence it, and then, slowly, patiently, reclaim your voice, not to scream, but to speak. "Actually, I don't agree. That doesn't work for me. Please don't speak to me that way." Every time you say those words, you reinforce your boundary, and every boundary protects your peace. This shield you build, it's not meant to isolate you, it's meant to protect the sacred place, where your self-worth lives. The goal was never to become invincible, the goal is to be whole. You don't have to go back to who you were before, you get to become someone new, someone wiser, someone stronger, someone more rooted in truth than ever before, because healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about reclaiming the future, on your terms. And that starts now. There's a moment in every healing journey. It doesn't come with fireworks or clarity, it begins quietly, when you pause and whisper to yourself, "Something doesn't feel right. Maybe it wasn't just me being too sensitive. Maybe I've been manipulated." That moment, however small, however shaky, it's not weakness. It's the first crack in the illusion, it's where denial begins to lose its grip. From there, the path forward doesn't demand perfection, it only asks for honesty. You don't need all the answers, you just need to admit, you're done living in confusion. Step 1. Reach out, not to everyone, just to someone safe, a trusted friend, a therapist, or even just a blank page in your journal. And if your voice trembles, if your thoughts come out messy, that's okay, you're not broken, you're just beginning. Step 2. Start writing, not for them, not for closure, just for you. Write down what they said, that made you feel small, write down how your body responded. Tight chest, spinning thoughts, moments you dismissed, but now, you remember, because once it's written, you can't gaslight yourself anymore. Step 3. Set small boundaries, you don't have to wait until you're ready. Even a simple sentence like, "I'm not available right now," is a boundary, not a wall, not an attack, just a return to your center. Step 4. Question emotional reflexes. Ask yourself, do I feel guilty because I did something wrong? Or because I was trained to feel that way when I say no? That's not self-doubt, that's the beginning of emotional clarity. Step 5. Let yourself feel, let the grief come, let the anger rise. Let the relief and the shame flow through you, because when you stop fighting what you feel, you stop carrying what broke you. And remember this, healing isn't about becoming who you were before the damage, it's becoming who you were always meant to be, before the guilt, before the silence, before the apology that never should have been yours to make. You don't need to fix everything today, you just need to take the next true step. Even if it's quiet, even if it's small, because every gentle act of self-respect is a revolution. So breathe, you're not just recovering, you're remembering who you are, and that is the most powerful comeback of all.